UFO show with your host, Jeff Worldwide.
Shortly after 8 p.m., Arizona reported seeing a triangular-shaped object which greeted thousands of people who saw more than stars in the night sky.
History remains unsolved and controversial. Nothing new of what?
On March the 13th, 1997, compelling accounts of various flights were sustained to Arizona. These flights are now referred to as the Phoenix flights, were actually witnessed in at least 5 other cities. What were these flights? What is an alien contact? Tonight, we explore the Phoenix flights in the sky with Jeff Worldwide from petroglyphsinthesky.com.
Jeff Worldwide, the first person to do this,
is the leading UFO investigator in Phoenix, Arizona. He runs a Facebook live show called Petroglyphs in the Sky. I would call him the king of the petroglyphs.
What you choose to believe about Jeff Worldwide and his petroglyph theories is entirely up to you. And whether he's a madman or a genius, I guess no one can say. What we can say that ancient art is riddled with images of strange beings, wheels of fire, and flying shields in the sky.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Petroglyphs in the Sky Ultimate UFO Show. I'm your host, Jeff Worldwide. Hey, it's great to be back here. You know, hey man, we're gonna a new year, man. We made it. We made it to 2020. Can you believe it? Wow, we're here, man, and so much is going on already in our world. Can you believe the stuff that's going on today now? You know, we got a great show going on for you today. and for you tonight. And I tell you what, man, I've got some video that was filmed out of Colorado from Jody, and it's gonna blow your mind. It is just gonna take you on a spin, and you're gonna say, "What in the world is that?" Well, it's what we're living with today, and so I think it's time that we open up our eyes a little bit and see what's really going on in our skies, And so yeah, we got that video coming up a little bit later. We got some videos that we shot. My wife Pam and I, we went up to these mountains out here, and we found some petroglyphs, and we're going to talk a little bit about those petroglyphs, and a little bit about me, a little bit about my background. I'm a native here in Phoenix, Arizona, born and raised. I've been seeing these entities, these UFOs, these orbs, these lights in the sky ever since I was a kid. So, I've been seeing them. I've been growing up with these things. I really didn't start researching them until like 2004. And that's when I, brought into this huge discovery that I made. I'm an archaeologist. I've been studying archaeologists, not only in text, but also, in the field, hands-on archaeology. So I know what I'm talking about. I can spot something out of place, something man-made, a mile away. So I'm good at archaeology. I'm good at sky watching. I'm good at, a lot of these, UFO investigators. So yeah, my background is pretty intense. I started this back in 2004. I started seeing these Phoenix lights on the east side of South Mountain, and from there, it just escalated, and then in 2005, I moved closer to South Mountain. I learned that these entities, these UFOs, are attracted to mountains. It seems like every time that, you look in history, these things are always hanging around mountains. So mountains was the key. I moved towards South Mountain. I stayed there for almost 3 years, and I caught some spectacular things going on at that mountain. And when I did, I learned about the petroglyphs. I had a Native American shaman take me up on South Mountain. We spent a few hours up there on the mountain, and he was telling me some crazy things. But after a while, watching the skies, learning the petroglyphs, learning the landscape, finding the tombs. There's tombs on South Mountain. The archaeologists, and you won't find this in history books that you read today. But yeah, there are tombs on South Mountain, and no one's talking about this, except for the first park ranger. His name was Charles Holbrook, and so I go into that a little bit, and I wrote a book about this, and it took me 15 years to get this book going, and 15 years, seriously archaeology investigating, serious UFO investigation, hands-on field, not just taking the word of somebody else, but actually going out there, spending the time, dedicating my life, dedicating my time to find out what's going on. Because, like I said before, man, I've been seeing these things ever since I was a kid. So, as years and years progress, man, I'm seeing more and more of them. I had to find out what was going on. I found out about the petroglyphs. The Native American shamans, were telling me, that these spirals located on these mountains are actually doorways for the spirits. Now, notice how I'm saying spirits. Okay, sure. A lot of people are reporting crafts. I get it. I've seen some things in the sky that could, represent or interpretate maybe a craft. And I get it, because that's all the people has been taught for so many years. But when I'm studying these things, when I'm watching these things firsthand, and they're coming by my window. They're coming right up to me. I mean, look at the videos that I was filming in 2005, 6, and 7, and continue to film these things in the sky. You will notice that these things are living entities. They're not spaceships. They're not technology. Sure, I get it. Yeah, why not? I understand that, yes, there are 7 Earth-like planets outside of our solar system, and what's to say, yes, some an advanced and intelligent race of beings has maybe constructed and technology craft to visit Arizona or to visit the world. Sure, I get that. I'm not disputing that at all. But what I'm saying is, I think the majority of what the public is seeing in the sky are orbs, lights, in some cases flying serpents, weird shape-shifting things in the sky. I started this. I started all of this back in 2005. I wrote an article for the UFO magazine, and from there I did the pilot for the UFO Hunter show, and also the same pilot was also used in the Ancient Aliens TV series that you see today. And later on, in 2007, when the UFO Hunter show actually aired on the History Channel, that's when I actually did the show. And I've been on True TV. I've been with Jaime Maussan. I've been a lot all over the world. I've been doing these things, doing this type of information for a lot of years. Been on a lot of cable shows, a lot of news reports, a lot of radio shows. And it's what led me up to where we're at today. And going into this, I'm thinking, wow, this is something. And then understanding it, dude, seeing these things close up, firsthand. I'm telling these people, look, this is not a craft, man. This is a living being that we're seeing in the skies, dude. This is something supernatural, if you will. This is something incredible. This is another life form. One of my favorite sayings is, just as the oceanographers are finding new species of life below the ocean, this is a new species of life above the ocean that the scientists and a lot of people in this field fail to recognize. But it's here, and it's always been here. And another thing that I learned is that, they're not from outer space. They're not from outer space. They're from inner space, yo. They are from this world. This is their planet also. I find it funny that SETI is looking for, intelligent life on the outskirts of our planet, on the outskirts of our solar system, when I really think that they should point their satellites in our own backyards on some of these mountains here where these sacred petroglyphs are carved. These sacred petroglyphs are spirals and weird-looking beings and weird-looking entities, right? And start watching these mountains, watching what's going on. I think we need to, focus back here on planet Earth a little bit, because, this is their planet too. All right, they've always been here. The Native Americans are telling you, man, look at the history. Look at the history, not only the Native Americans, but, in Peru and Mexico, okay, and places like that. They're telling you, it's in all these religions, all these sacred texts, all right, they tell you that beings from the sky came to Earth and interacted with man. All right, you find this story all over the planet, all over the place. And that's exactly what we're dealing with here, okay? We're not dealing with an intelligent life form on the outskirts of the world, but more of inner space, right here on planet Earth. And they're simply waiting and watching. I get a lot of people asking me, well, how come these things don't, land on Earth and tell us that they're here? Well, they are here. They're watching this. And it has everything to do with what our future holds. And I believe that we'll get into that in another time, in another show. But you can also read my book and find out exactly what I've discovered, what I've found out, and everything like that. So, we got tons of stuff to go over with. I don't have a lot of time tonight, but I just want to say welcome to 2020. I have moved. I moved into a new studio. I'm in a new place, a new area now. So a lot of you who has been watching me film these entities for the past year and a half or so, I'm not there anymore. So I moved. I'm in a spot now, unfortunately, where they don't come around, and I really think that it has to do with because I'm so close. There's an Air Force base. There's a military Air Force base right in my backyard. So I really don't think that these things are really going to come around that much while the military is flying in the skies. But I have seen them while living in this area. There's a sacred mountain out there, and I have seen, these UFOs. When I first got here, I saw a flying serpent. So yeah, these things are here, and like as a good sky watcher, I take my video camera with me everywhere I go. I tell people, look, it's best for you to film these things with a video camera than a cell phone. All right, because a lot of people, oh, they got the cell phone, sure, but it just doesn't pick up the quality of it. It just doesn't pick up, it doesn't zoom in very good. So I tell everybody, it's best to use a video camera, upload it to YouTube, upload it to Facebook, things like that, and share the links that way, because then you get a better perspective, on what you're seeing and what you're videotaping, what you're filming, things like that. Okay, so yeah. So this is called Petroglyphs in the Sky, and the reason why I call my research Petroglyphs in the Sky is because that's exactly what we're seeing in the skies today. These petroglyphs, these things carved on the mountains from people almost over 1,000 years ago, saw these things in the sky too. Okay, and I learned that the same carvings are all over the Valley of the Sun and also all over the world. Okay, so some mountains talk about these entity spirits, talk about these entities, okay? The ones with the spirals on them. Now, there's a lot of mountains in different parts of the countries, different parts of the world that is not a sacred mountain, but the petroglyphs are talking about, ceremonies or hunting or, a pretty deer eating flowers, things like that, okay? So what you really want to look for is you want to look for the sacred mountains that have spirals, and the spirals are doorways. Okay, so the spirals going clockwise is a doorway in, and a spiral going counterclockwise is a doorway out. So I've seen some petroglyph rocks, some boulders with two spirals, one in, one out. And if the spiral ends up top, then 9 times out of 10 is probably pointing towards this crack in the boulder, crack in the stone. Okay, and the natives will tell you that crack is actually the emergence point. It's the emergence point into the underworld, okay, into the spirit world. Okay, and if the spiral is ending like down, then it could be a crack on the bottom there. Okay, it could be a crack on the bottom, or it's the ground itself. It's the whole boulder, man. It's the whole ground. And I've seen these. I videotaped these things coming in and out of the mountain. I first discovered this in 2005, and I brought this to the UFO community. This is a whole new topic. This was a whole new subject on the Phoenix Lights. No one has ever came up with this before. Not only did I come up with it, but I proved it. I proved it by watching the South Mountain area, watching these things coming and going from the mountains, going out there, investigating what's there, finding spirals, and finding the exact same thing carved on the rock that I filmed a day or two before. For instance, like I filmed a flying serpent come out of this canyon. So I went up there and I went to go investigate the canyon, and sure enough, I found spiral for doorways and a stick figure being man looking up at a flying serpent. So we're talking about like Quetzalcoatl. The same things that we're seeing in Mexico. Look at Mexico. Look at all the sightings there. Oh my goodness. We got flying worms, flying snakes, these crazy entity things going on in Mexico. Well, I tell you what, my friends, they're here now. They're here with us. And I've been saying this ever since 2005 when I first discovered this, when I first proved this, that not all UFOs are crafts, but living entities. And when I understood the petroglyphs, when I understood the rock art, and understood their past, I could understand the future on where the Earth is heading and what these entities, these spirit beings, are doing in our skies today. More of that is for another show. But yeah, I was the first one to do this, the first one to talk about this, the first one to ever, connect the petroglyphs, proven the glyphs with these entities in the sky. So this is the reason why I call my show Petroglyphs in the Sky, is because that's what we're seeing in the sky today. So let's get on with the show here. I'm going to show you some things that. So over these last month or so, I've been watching some of these other Facebook pages, some of these petroglyph pages, and so I've been kind of grabbing their photographs of petroglyphs. So I have no idea where these glyphs are located at, but I can tell you the information on them. And so I can tell you what the natives are talking about. So let's start off with this one. This one was pretty interesting here. So here, when we look at this glyph here, okay, so this is what these entities look like. All right, so what we're looking at, it's not some, you know, Indian in a trance, you know, it's not graffiti, okay. This is what they were seeing. This is what we're dealing with here. These things like the shape shift. They change the shape, they change color. Okay, when you see lights out there, when you see 5 lights out there, it's not some invisible craft, it's not some spaceship, but each light is a living entity. Okay, so when you look at the top glyph here, all right, you see these lines coming off there. It's kind of like sun rays. Well, they're sparkling, man. They're glycerine. They're like projecting this like plasma, if you will. You know, it has everything to do with energy. It's the energy that they're absorbing here on the mountains around the world. This is how you can actually track them also. We're going to go into this a little bit later. But they follow the seasons. They track the sun. They follow the seasons. They're following the fault lines. Because the Native Americans say, and when, you know, and watching these things over many years on the mountains coming and going, I learned that some months, some seasons they were here, and other seasons they were gone. You know, they were gone from that area. They simply just moved to another area. You know, they just moved over to Florida, or they moved over there to Israel, or they moved, you know, some other place on the other side of the world. But when the solstice and the equinox came back again, they would shift shape. They would shift all the way back over here. So basically, they're following the sun. They're following the fault lines. They're following the energy, whether it's man-made energy such as nuclear facilities, or whether it's a volcano or natural, you know, energy such as volcanoes or fault lines. And I think that's the exact reason why we see most of these beings around these energy spots, these energy sources. You know, some places see a lot of UFOs because there's many fault lines there, many energy sources there. And some places don't see UFOs at all because there's no energy there. What I learned in Phoenix, Arizona is that they're simply coming out of one mountain, going over the city, that's what everybody sees them, you know, and then going into another mountain. You know, so they're absorbing the mountain, they're absorbing the energy. And this petroglyph here is kind of describing this when we're seeing the sparks, if you will. Because I've had these things fly at me with sparks, dude. I mean, it was colors, man. Blue, red, green. It was crazy what I was filming. And I was seeing exactly what these things are portraying here carved on the glyphs. So when you see these things, when you see these, let's see if I can just reach over here. No, it's not going to work. So when you see, you know, lines coming off these beams, it's actually telling us, you know, it's telling us that this thing is actually shooting out sparks. It's like the plasma, if you will. It's bright. You know, it's a light. Okay, it's a light in the sky. Okay, and you can see that it's morphing. It's growing into a man. It's starting to grow eyes there and things like that. So yeah, this is a way to you know, understand what we're looking at, because I think it's time that we take a second look at these petroglyphs, you know, because this is what they're talking about. All right, they're talking about what we're seeing in the skies today. All right, these petroglyphs are actually prehistoric photographs. Because they didn't have video cameras back then. They didn't have photographs back then. They had stone boulders. And they carved what they saw in the sky on certain places where the event took place. Now this is the reason why, you know, some areas of the mountain we see petroglyphs, but other areas we don't see petroglyphs. Well, that's because the area with the glyphs on it is where the incident took place at. It's a holy area. It's a sacred area. This is where the sighting took place at. So we see this rock here, and we know that this area is where the spirits were seen at. Now, when you look at the bottom of this glyph here, I don't know if you can see it. Let's make the picture just a little bit bigger. You know, you'll see a spiral on the bottom there. You see that spiral? Okay, and what is it? It's counterclockwise, and it's going towards this crack in the bottom. See that? So these spirits, These things that we're seeing now are coming out. They're coming out of the stone. All right, so when you look at the petroglyphs here, you're not just supposed to look at the glyphs, but you're supposed to examine the whole landscape. Look at the whole landscape, because the artist is including the landscape in with the art. Okay, and that's how to interpret a lot of what we're seeing in this on the mountains there. As far as with the petroglyphs, that's how you understand what's going on. Because on the South Mountain, I noticed when a coyote is carved, right, and he's looking that way, he's looking to the right, he's looking that way. You want to follow that direction where he's looking at, because he's telling you there's another story over there. That's the way to go. So you follow the coyote the way he's looking, boom, there's another glyph there. There's another story on, what happened there. So this petroglyph here is telling us, with the spiral on the bottom and the spiral going counterclockwise, okay, and it's pointing, look at that, it's going right to that ledge there, and it actually seems to coincide with that ledge. See how the ledge is kind of like curved and chopped right there? Well, look at the spiral glyph. See how it's kind of curved and cut off right there? It's pointing right to that area. So this is where these entities came out from. Absolutely. Let's take a look at another one. That's a real neat petroglyph. I really like that. I like that glyph a lot. Take a look at this one. This one's pretty neat. So we see this circular object above, right there on the top. So this is not a spiral. This is not a spiral, okay? So because it's not interlinking with each other, it's not connecting with each other. So we have to look at this as this is like, when I've seen these petroglyphs, or when I've seen these phoenix lights in the sky. I filmed them many times. I've seen them close up, and they kind of they pulsate, right? They kind of pulse, right? The plasma, they kind of change from orange amber to white, and it's got this plasma that kind of goes through. That's the energy. That's the energy that they're absorbing. This is the reason why they're lighting up. It's not some craft with lights. Why would a craft need lights in the first place? I never got that. It's the energy. So it's the energy. The light is the beam. There's not a little guy inside this craft, inside this light at all. That's not what's going on here. When we look at the petroglyphs and we look at what we see in the skies today, the real stuff, not the fake CGI stuff, but the real stuff, the lights, the orbs, the weird things, the shape-shiftings, the worms, the serpents, things like that. That's what we're really seeing in the sky, and that's exactly what we can actually prove. Well, we can prove, because a lot of these things that I'm seeing, is, okay, well, it's nice, it's neat, but we can't prove it. But with the petroglyphs, when you match a sighting with a petroglyph, now that's proof enough to me. That's proven right then and there that you're seeing in the sky today is exactly what was recorded thousands and hundreds of years ago. All right, and that's exactly what I did. I continued to do this. This is why I knew I was right. I took that to the news in Phoenix, Arizona, and they just ate it up. This is a whole new take on the Phoenix lights. At that point in time, it was 10 years. It was 10 years that no one has even talked about the petroglyphs and the Phoenix lights being connected together until after my work, after I proved this. I proved the formations in the sky. I saw the carvings on the rock. I went to the mountain in 2005. I saw these things going from the mountain, and I matched it. I matched it to the petroglyphs, and I matched it with these spiral doorways, and to what we're seeing in the sky today. And that's exactly what's going on here. So when we look at this glyph here, when we look at the top, we can see, it's like it's got rings upon a ring upon a ring. Okay, so that, it's pulsing. To me, that's telling me it's pulsing. I've seen that. I've recorded that. I've seen that in the sky. It's pulsating. It's it's flickering. It's pulsating. And that's what that's really representing. And then we come down to the bottom left. All right, so we see this entity, right? And he's like half a worm or half a fish, all right? But he's growing arms and legs, man. All right, so because they shapeshift. They like to take the shapes of animals. They like to take the shapes of humans, if you will. They like to take the shape of snakes and weird things in the sky. And this is how they've been getting away with being in our skies for so many years. And for so long, people look up and they say, oh, well, that must be a balloon. Okay, why? Because they were taught spaceships. They were looking for crafts. And if something doesn't look like a craft, they're going to dismiss it. But in fact, when you actually look at what's going on, I mean, if you're intelligent, you know what balloons do. They sway back and forth. They're not, they're out of control. Okay, they're swaying back and forth. They're going up. They're just doing weird stuff. They're staying the same colors. But when you're seeing something that kind of resembles a balloon but doesn't, because the way it moves, man, the way it moves, it's really hypnotic. Okay, it moves so slowly, all right, and it's changing shape, all right, and it's changing colors, and it's moving slowly, all right. That's when you know you have something. And when you see this video that Jody filmed in Colorado, it's going to blow your mind. I can't wait to show it. Can't wait to get there, because this is what this creature is doing. It's shape-shifting, it's changing, it's weird, and it's scary stuff, man. So when we look at this glyph here, this is what we're seeing in the sky. I'm not sure where this glyph was carved at. It's not in Arizona. It's somewhere else in the United States. But you can see that it's changing into a fish and into a man. Okay, and then we have others. We have others that are smaller ones to the right. Awesome glyph. I had to bring this one up because, oh my goodness, last Christmas, I'm seeing this petroglyph, and everybody's saying, oh, this proves Santa's real. The Indians carved Santa. Oh, mercy. Oh, yeah, Santa's carved on the rocks. Santa Claus and his reindeer. Really? Alrighty then. No, the Native Americans did not see Santa Claus and his flying reindeer in the sky 1,000 years ago and carved it on the rocks. No, that is not what this glyph is talking about. Let's enhance this glyph, this petroglyph a little bit more, and let's show you what's up. Okay, so what we got here. Okay. So on the left, starting on the left. All right. So we have this spirit being. All right. So that's a spirit. Okay. That's an entity. All right. So he's changing into a man, like. Okay. So he's like in spirit form. Then coming to the right, there's another spirit there. Now this thing that a lot of people probably thought was a whip is actually the mountain peak in the background. Now it's unfortunate that we don't know what's behind this glyph, but I guarantee you, when you're at this site and you step back from the site, you'll see a peak. You'll see a peak of a mountain behind this rock here. So we have these deers, right? So the first one, look how the legs are like backwards. They're the feet. You see that? Let me enhance this a little bit more so you can see it more. This is important. This is crucial. Okay, so look at the feet on the first one, on the first deer to the left. All right, see how they're like backwards, right? And then the next one on the right. Okay, you see that? How they're going forward then going backwards. So the archaeologists, they like to call these things anthropomorphs because they're morphing. They're changing shape. And that's what these first 4 glyphs, starting from the left, is representing. They're anthropomorphs. They're shape-shifting, they're morphing. The first guy on the left, he's morphing into a man. Next guy in the middle, he's kind of morphing into some kind of creature. I don't know. And then we have this other entity here that is resembling a deer, but is not a deer, because you can tell by the way the feet are facing. That's a dead giveaway. That's a dead giveaway on how to interpret these petroglyphs. Is like, because you can, look at the tail. See, the tail is facing correctly, right? It's facing what supposedly would be the head, but the legs are going backwards, man. All right, so that's not natural. That's telling us that's an anthropomorph. That's a spirit. That's an entity. Same thing with the guy on the right. Okay, so look at that. All right, so his feet are going, his front feet are going right, his back feet are going left. This is not correct. Okay, and look at the way it all, looks. This is an anthropomorph. This is a spirit being. When we see these things in the sky, I found them many times. They look like, sheep or like, animals, something like that. Coming over here to the right, yeah, that's a normal animal. Look at the feet. Examine the feet. You can tell that is a normal animal. Okay, and then the next one, look at the feet. The feet are normal. See that? And actually his face, his antlers, everything is normal. So what these anthropomorphs are actually doing, they're mimicking these animals to the right. So these first 3 that look like a deer or whatever, they're mimicking, they're acting, they're trying to mimic what was seen on the ground there. Are these goats? Are these, these probably mountain sheep? That's probably what it is. Even so, keep looking at them. Keep going down the road there. You can see that all of them, the feet are going in the same direction. So this is natural. That's a natural animal. That's a natural goat. That's a natural, probably ram or some kind of, goat, but the other 2 over here on the left, no, that is not natural. That is an anthropomorphs. Those are anthropomorphs. Those are, the spirit entities. All right? And so then we have these 2 circles above that. See the 2 circles? Those are the lights. I filmed that. I'm sure that the sky watchers out there have seen these things in the sky before. So there's those entities, those lights, right above those animals. So yeah, that's exactly what this petroglyph is talking about. Isn't that neat? Love it. Let's take a look at this one. This one's pretty neat. Okay? So we have all these spirals. Some of them are spirals, and then some of them are not. You can tell, like the circle one in between these 3 spirals here. The circle one, that's not a spiral. But look at this. Look at the spirals. Look at the doorways. Okay, so they're ending like kind of upwards. Okay, and see that crack right above that? See that crack? See that crack right there? That's the emergence point. And you can see these other entities here coming out of that crack up there on top, right? Those, deer-looking things. And then we have, one that's in the mating pose, if you will. I haven't really seen that before, so that's a new one on me. Actually seeing, they actually carved a mating ritual. But yeah, on the bottom here, we can see these spirals. And they're referencing this crack in the stone. And then we have the cross to the left. Okay, so we've seen this cross. I filmed this cross in the sky. It was an orb, then a cross, then an orb, then a cross. It was red. And we see these type of petroglyphs. Now, I've seen these on South Mountain. And we also, where else do we see them? We see them in Mexico. We see them in Mexico. We see the exact same type of cross in Mexico. Okay, now this is a spirit in the sky. This is what we're seeing here. This is what it's talking about. To the left of that, we have a circle and a dot. That's one of those orbs. That's one of those, entities. Then we have this thing in the middle there. Okay, so this what looks like a big, like a lizard with a big belly. You see that? So I noticed like on South Mountain, so we have two of them. You know, one on the left, one on the right. Okay, so those, when I found out on South Mountain, are actually light and shadow equinox and solstice markers. So I bet you there's a rock. There's probably a stone up on top here. Yeah, there's a stone. There's more. Here we go. There's a cross up there. So that cross, that top one there, that's an entity. All right, he's coming out of this crack here. So I'm sure that there's a stone on top. And during the equinox and the solstice, these two, what look like lizard guys on the left and the right here, are actually the solstice and equinox markers. So it's telling us that during the equinox and the solstice, that the sun will cast its shadow and probably, you know, produce like this pyramid or this long shadow, and the shadow will end probably in this top crack here, or probably in the bottom of the crack there. So that's exactly what this petroglyph is talking about. It's talking about the equinox and the solstice. And this is how we can tell with these two petroglyphs of what looks like lizard guys. They're round and they have the legs there and the tail. All right, we have two of the exact same on the left and the right there. And then we have like this goat, and he's a regular goat. He's a regular animal because we can tell by the feet. See the way the feet are going in the same direction? Okay, so that's normal. That's a normal animal. These animals, they like these things also. All right, they see them also. They're attracted to them. See, there's another animal to the bottom left there. All right, so yeah, when you see these type of petroglyphs, I talk about this in my book also. When you examine my book, the equinox and solstice markers is what I like to call them. It actually teaches you on what to look for, and that's exactly what you want to look for in a panel. And it's too bad the person photographing this did not take a photograph of, you know, the rest of the panel, of the rest of what the glyph and the rocks actually show, because I guarantee you that there is a rock up on top of this boulder, and that will cast a shadow from the sun, and it will disappear or it will come out of the crack. Equinox and solstice. This glyph is really interesting. This one's kind of cool. So we have a square doorway, a square spiral, if you will. Okay. So when you look at the rock, look at the petroglyph. Look at the rock that the petroglyph is carved on. See that? Now look at the right here of the spiral, of this square spiral. Okay? So it's telling us, I'm interpreting that this rock here, this stone, is the doorway. So, and then the bottom, see how it goes on the bottom? So that's the path. See how the spiral, it kind of turns and it goes down on the bottom right, right? And then it kind of turns around and it goes back up. So that's the entrance, and that's the entrance to the underworld from the bottom there. And it's under the stone here. And we have this another entity to the right of it, and it's coming out of this spiral. Now it does look like a light channel or light and shadow petroglyph for an equinox and the solstice. You see that? So it does look like exactly what we were talking about in the last photograph. But without seeing the whole landscape, without seeing everything, it's hard to determine if this is aligned with the equinox and the solstice sunrise or sunset. You know, because we can't see, we just don't see the whole landscape to understand the petroglyph more. That's a shame. But it is an interesting petroglyph. It's really neat. I like it. It's talking about the spirits coming out of a square spiral. You don't see those two men. You don't see that very often, but they do exist. They do have a meaning. You know, they do have a meaning. So it's just not some random graffiti. No, all these glyphs has a meaning. It's telling us a story. They've, you know, the Indians have already tracked these things for us. All we have to do now is understand them, is understand their way of thinking, their interpretations, understand the landscape. Once you understand the landscape, once you understand the seasons, the changing of the seasons, tracking of the sun, because that's what the Holocom did, the first Native Americans here in Phoenix, Arizona, they were sky watchers too. They watched the skies. They watched for these spirits also. They saw the Phoenix lights also, man. They carved the same stuff. They were the first ones to see the Phoenix lights, to actually record the Phoenix lights. And so many tribes around the world also. You know, it's interesting too, because studying these petroglyphs for the last 30 years, you know, it really seems like it's the same artist, right? You know, because you can tell how someone, you know, a different person signs his name a little different, you know, this and that. You can tell how the artist, you know, different artists, you know, paint different, things like this. Well, some of these petroglyphs, man, it looks like the exact same artist. So that's really trippy. Here's another one. This is really neat too. So I'm sure that this petroglyph is carved. I'm sure once you look beyond this glyph here, or beyond the rock here, I'm sure that there's two. This is a canyon. It's describing a canyon. See the V formation? Okay. Look at the left and the right. All right. Now you see that, and then the V, kind of like a shirt, right? So this is actually a mountain canyon. And again, it's unfortunate that the photographer does not understand this, you know, that you're supposed to photograph what's behind this rock, because behind this rock is the real story, is what really happened there. So it's saying that what's behind this stone is a canyon, is a V canyon, and a spirit actually dwells within this canyon. It's telling us that this spirit here, this entity, lives in this canyon and has been seen in this canyon behind this boulder on which it's carved at. That's exactly what this petroglyph is telling us. It's too bad that I can't show you what's behind it, because I guarantee you that it's telling us, it's showing you, man. It's showing you, look, dude, there's a canyon. There's a mountain canyon right behind this stone, and this spirit is coming out of the canyon. That's exactly what that glyph is talking about. That's how you learn the petroglyphs. That's how you interpret the petroglyphs. This one is really cool. So we've seen this a lot on South Mountain, around the Valley of the Sun, on the mountains around the valley, and we see these petroglyphs a lot, you know, in the United States. And so what we're looking at is, you know, when we see an orb in the sky, when we see the lights in the sky, okay, so what they tend to do is they shape-shift. Remember what I said? They like to take the shape of living beings. They like to mimic animals, or humans, if you will. And that's exactly what this being is doing. Now, a lot of Native Americans will call this like a lizard man, okay, because they have this circular belly in the middle, in his stomach, right? Well, actually, when you interpret it, when you examine the petroglyphs, and you've seen these things in the sky so many times, and you notice that they shapeshift, you know, that actually that circular object in the middle, in his belly, is actually the orb. That is the UFO. That is the light. That is the orb that we see in the skies today. So this thing here it's actually pulsating, right? I would say this is probably a phoenix light because it's pulsating with plasma. And this is why we have the circles in the middle, because this is what, the artist is trying to tell us. The artist is trying to tell us, look, there's something going on here. This thing is alive. It's pulsating, right? It's changing. It's changing shape, right? It's pulsating. And so it's turning into a man. It's growing arms. It's growing legs. Okay, you see that? That is what we're dealing with here. All right? The things that we see in the sky has been recorded before hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. All right? This is nothing new. All right? It's new information to the UFO community. Yeah, that's new. They've never heard about this before. They're still on crafts, Alpha Centauri, little gray man running around with laser guns, right? But when we actually examine it, when you take a step further, and just don't take the word of someone just saying this, but actually investigate it yourself as I have done, you'll learn that it's not really crafts that we're dealing with. It's living entities, it's living beings. And when you go on these mountains and you examine the petroglyphs and you understand the rock art, you'll see that it's talking about the exact same things, my friend, that we're seeing in the skies today. It's incredible. It's wonderful. It's a great discovery. It's a huge discovery. And I think it's only a matter of time when more and more people, start to realize this. When I was doing the history show, when I was doing the UFO Hunter show, they were telling me, dude, the public is not ready for what, you're filming. The public is not ready for this, And I'm thinking to myself, they should get ready because that's what we're dealing with here. And over the years, since 2007, over the years, people are emailing me, oh, dude, I saw a flying snake in the sky. I saw the exact same thing you filmed years ago. I saw it just now today. Oh, I saw this flying cross. Oh, I saw these brilliantly shattering colors flying in the sky, man. So it's coming. It's coming around, boy. It's coming. People are starting to take notice, And so now, they were saying, oh, crafts, light ships, light crafts. Now we got them saying light beings, right? And that's my work. Yeah, okay? I started all of this. I started this in 2005. I was the first one to ever say, look, man, these are beings. Sure, there might be crafts out there. Why not? I get it. I'm seeing crafts in the sky. I've seen a black triangle. Okay? I've seen, what could technically be a craft, right? But I've also I see more beings. I see more entities. I see more petroglyphs in the sky, brothers. That's it, man. So that's what the work's all about, is let's take a second look at the petroglyphs. Let's understand the petroglyphs a little bit more because they're telling us, they're showing us exactly what these glyphs are. What we're seeing in the sky today. They're telling us. They made a record of this before. All we have to do is simply learn. Understand. I love it. It's great. It's a great discovery. It's great. Here we go again. Now look at this glyph here. Here's a perfect example. Now, this photographer, I'm not sure where this is at, but I love this petroglyph because it actually talks about, let's blow this up a bit. Let's look at this. Look at this. See this? So the rings going around is the mountain, is the hill, right? And look at the things coming out of it. Look at the things going in it. And look at the things already in the stone, in the boulder. See that? So these things in the middle here, around these lines here, these lines in a half circle formation there is a hill, is the rock. Okay, and these things are in the rock. They're in the stone. They're in the spirit world. And some are coming out and some are going in. Look at that. Look at that. See that? See that? Look at that. Look at that guy up there on top. See, he's peeking out, right? So they're entities. They're entities. Look at the one on the right here. See? He's coming out of the stone. Look at that. Then we have some that are actually going in the stone. Okay? Then we have some on the bottom here, all right, are waiting to come out of the stone. Isn't that great? So let's take a look. This guy really did a great job. He not only filmed the petroglyphs, but he also filmed the rock that the petroglyphs are carved on. See that? Look at that. See the stone there? See that there? Look at the stone there. See? This is exactly what the artist is trying to tell us. That these things are in the spirit world. They're in the rocks. They're in the stone. See that? And this line here on the left, you see that? That could be, it all depends on where this rock is facing. But if it's facing east, then the sun will align on the equinox, will align right there, matching where that line is carved in. That line is going up. The sun will come right above that line there. So yeah, that's a great photograph explanation on what's going on here and what we're seeing in the skies today. So these things live in the stones, they live in the earth, all right? They come out during the seasons, during certain times of the seasons. They follow the sun, they follow the equinox. They're absorbing the energy. So this area is massively, is massive. There must be a fault line there, right? That's a great carving. That's a great petroglyph. It explains everything. Last one. Look at that one. Isn't that neat? So look at the glyph there. See, there's like this guy in it, right? So I have seen things on South Mountain petroglyphs, all right? And it's a barbell. So I filmed barbells in the sky many times. There's tons of barbells carved on the mountains around the Valley of the Sun, probably in your neck of the woods also. You want to look for barbells. And one petroglyph I thought was interesting was this barbell was actually absorbing this man. This man was inside a barbell. He was looking out through a window, okay? So he's not actually, he's not flying a barbell craft, if you will, but this being, this entity, is absorbing itself around the human and taking the human up into the sky. You see? That's what the petroglyph is interpreting. That's what the petroglyph is telling us. That this entity came out of the sky, absorbed the sky around him, picked him up, and took off with him. And that's exactly what's going on here with this petroglyph here. We see this entity, and it's mimicking a man. It's starting to come, from a torso into legs there, but it really has a man inside of it. You see that? And unfortunately, when you look at the arms, so if this man was alive, then his arms would be up. His arms would be facing up. But what we see here on this glyph is the arms are down. And that's not very good. You really don't want to see that, because this is representing death. So this guy, according to this petroglyph, is not alive. So this spirit being is taking, I hate to say it, but you know, this is how we learn the petroglyphs. This is how we understand the rock art. You know. But unfortunately, I don't believe that this guy is alive. This guy is inside this entity. The entity is changing colors. That's what all those lines are for, right? Because they didn't have colors. You know, they didn't have, you know, they wasn't working with paint at the time. You know, so they're carving what they're seeing, and so those lines in the middle are actually colors, probably red, green, blue, yellow, you know, stuff like that. You know, and then on the bottom, it's actually morphing into a guy. It's changing into a man there. So yeah, and then on the right, okay, look at this on the right, over here on the right. So we have this coyote. Look at the coyote. He's looking up. You see the coyote there in the middle? See that coyote? He's looking up at a half of a barbell. Half of a bow tie. See that? He's looking up at an entity in the sky, right? And here's one on the bottom right. See that diamond? And he's got these things coming out of it. That's what we're looking for. That's what those symbols, these things that we see here, are the entities, are the UFOs. I don't believe they're crafts, but they're living beings. They're living entities. Of course, we have this moose up on top. Looks like a deer, maybe a moose. Over here on the bottom we have, see this weird looking thing? So that's what we're looking for in the skies. Because that's exactly what it's depicting. It's depicting a spirit. An entity, spirit being, if you will. Same with this thing over here on the left there. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Very cool. So, for the New Year's, my wife and I we decided to take a road trip out to go see some petroglyphs on this mountain. And while we're out there, it's pretty neat. I've got photographs of it, and I'll post the photographs later on my Facebook page. And so it took us a while to find them, but when we did, it was pretty neat. And I'm going to show you the video here. Here we go. So this is pretty neat here. So we found these boulders. And look at that. I noticed that, there wasn't any spirals. There wasn't any spirals. There wasn't any spirals on these rocks here. But what I was finding was living entities. Okay, so that was I was finding all these entities, but I wasn't finding any spirals. So that was telling me that there's entities. Now, look at this. Now, so on this side here, this is facing west, but the carving is looking east. So this is actually a spirit being. But see the line there? Okay, I learned later, understanding the rock art later, that that's a place where the sun will rise during the equinox and the solstice. Will rise right above that line there. So all these stones have been placed here as like an equinox and solstice marker, and that's exactly what these petroglyphs are depicting here. It's pretty neat. Yeah, I really think that these rocks were probably placed here. They were stacked here. I really don't think that this is natural. I think that they were placed here to align with the equinox and the solstice sun, and also the sunset. So we'll get into that here in a minute. So on this side of the stacked boulders is the west side, but the glyphs are facing east. Okay, so they're facing on the direction where the sun will rise at. Okay, so here we have a crooked line, so that's representing energy. You see that crooked line there? That's representing energy. It was fun climbing all over these boulders, man. Here's another one, okay? See that line there? Okay, so that is in line with the sun also. That's a marker where the sun will rise at. You see that there's like a little sun petroglyph kind of carved right above that. See that? The sun will probably arise between those two peaks. It's facing towards those two peaks there. That's what that glyph was facing. That's what that glyph was showing there. This right here looks like a little guy there. So I thought that was interesting. It's really faded though. So we're still on the west side. And the petroglyphs are carved. You're supposed to read the glyphs, the direction that they're facing. So they're facing east. All right. So here we have some more glyphs on the west side, facing east. All right, and it's showing spirits. It's showing lines there. It's aligning with the sun in the background. We have some spirit there. We have spirit entities there. We have some more. Well, here goes the energy. We have a lot of energy here. See that? Now, I believe this glyph is actually aligned with the sun. Yeah, there's a sun marker right here. So this is where the sun, this is telling us that this is a equinox and solstice marker. Now, here's the lines. Okay, so these lines is aligned with the sun. Here's our photograph. Okay, so and we have the solstice, the equinox, the solstice, and the equinox. Okay, and then the sun is right there. So this is how to interpret, this type of sun panel. So these petroglyphs are here for a reason. They're not just graffiti. All right, whether it's the tracking of the sun, because the changing of the seasons is very important. And it doesn't have anything to do with what the archaeologist wants to tell us, because the archaeologist will say, oh, it's just time to plant corn. They know that it's time to start harvesting. No, that has nothing to do with planting corn. It has everything to do with seeing these spirits in the sky. And this is exactly why they're using spirits, they're using spirit entities to align with the sun. So, for instance, January, February, March, April, May, and June is the hot times to see these things. Because, and then, they come before the equinox, they come after the equinox, they come before the solstice and after the solstice. So those are the best hot times to see these entities in the sky. So they're tracking. These are they're tracking the sun. They're tracking the seasons. Not to learn how to plant corn. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. But when to see these entities in the sky. When to see their gods, if you will, in the sky. Now here's an entity, okay, and he has these lines through him, right? So this is the alignment of the sun on changing of the seasons. Each line, the sun will arise above that petroglyph there, those lines. That's a spirit being. That's an entity. Looks like kind of a spider. I filmed that spider in Phoenix, man. That thing made video of the day. That was a creepy entity there. We'll go into that later. But yeah, this is exactly what it's talking about. This is a sun panel. All right, it's talking about the sun and the solstice and the entities. Okay, we didn't find no spirals. See that dot there? That dot, those dots are aligned with the sun. The sun will appear right over that stone, aligned with those carvings. Isn't that neat? It's so cool to be out there and see the sun, arise up there. So another thing that was really neat, so to the right of us is a Hilton, a $400 night Hilton, and then right here in the backyard are these petroglyphs, and they arranged this. I've never seen this before. They arranged these tubes, these looking tubes, and they're precisely looking at petroglyphs. And I thought this was pretty cool. All right, so they're facing the petroglyph wall, and when you look through them, you'll see the petroglyphs. I thought that was really cool. I'll show you here in a minute. Here we go. This is cool. So when you look at the tube, you'll see the petroglyphs. Isn't that cool? Go down there, Jeff. It's to the bottom there, buddy. There you go. There it is. There it is. See? It's aligned with that petroglyph. Isn't that cool? I've never seen that before. That is so neat. That's so interesting. And see how those rocks are stacked? The sun will align right above those rocks. That is way cool. Those rocks are stacked that way. That is not natural. That is man-made. The Native Americans, they stacked those rocks in the precise area and carved those petroglyphs to align with the sun on the equinox and the solstice. Isn't that cool? Isn't that neat? That petroglyph there is aligned with the sun. The morning sun will go right above that petroglyph. That's what that line is for. We're on the west side of the hill looking east. Here's one. Then they have the ones for the kids. See the smaller ones on the ground? They got it for the kids there to see the petroglyphs. I thought that was really cool. See those stones there? Those stones were stacked there. Those stones were placed there. here we have this, sometimes when we see these stacked rocks, sometimes there's a trail, that's trail markers, and then other times they're like cemetery markers, like for a burial ground. But in this case, I think it has something to do, with the trail. So this is the west side. I'm sorry, the east side. This is the east side of the stone, and and the petroglyphs that we're going to be looking at is facing west. They're carved looking west. So this is talking about the sun sets. Now here we have like what looks like a carving of a sun there. It's really faded out. But that would be a sun. And then here we go. Now we have another spirit entity being, but he's got this line, and it's telling us that the sun will set on the equinox or the solstice. Here we go. The equinox and the solstice, both those petroglyphs there is for the sun. It's for the sun sets. So the sun will come down and align with those glyphs on the rock. Isn't that amazing? That'd be great to see that. That's exactly what those glyphs are talking about. It's kind of hard getting up in there. And here's on the back of that stone there. And when we get closer, we'll talk about it a little bit more. Here we go. So this is the sunset also. So that line there on the left, all right, so we have the spirits. The spirits are in the ground. They're in the rock, okay? And then we have this line that aligns with the summer solstice. Sunset. Okay, so the sun will set right above that line there on the summer solstice. And then the two lines on the left and right, one is the equinox and one is the equinox or probably the autumn marker. There we go. See that glyph there? So that's aligned with where the sun will set. And now these glyphs on the bottom, these are the spirits. Now they're waiting for the sun. Notice how that one here, he doesn't have a line because he's not aligned with the sun, right? So he's waiting to come out. He's waiting for the equinox. He's waiting for the solstice. He's waiting to come out. So here's some photographs, and I'll show this. I'll show better photographs when they're done. But this the equinox and the solstice and the winter solstice, and then the innies here on the bottom there. And then when we look at it, you see the top there? Let's see, I show the top. See how the top is chiseled out? Let's examine this. This is carved out. You see how it's carved? It's all carved out there on the left. That's done for a reason. So it's very possible that is a shadow marker also, that the sun will cast a shadow and make some kind of design on this panel here. So that's not natural. That's carved out. That's chiseled out for a reason, on purpose. For the sun, for the setting of the sun. Isn't that neat? A lot of people just wouldn't even look at that. So here's the sun now. We can see the sun there. And you can see that soon the sun will set along these lines here. Isn't that neat? Isn't that neat how they do that? There's the mountains there. So those lines are aligned with these mountains here in the background. This is west. This is looking west. Isn't that great? That is so cool. I'd love to see that. It's just like, Stonehenge. Everybody goes out there during the equinox, and they watch the sun, rise right in between the two stones. Exactly the same thing. And it has nothing to do with planting corn. It has nothing to do, with all that jazz. It has everything to do with these spirits. Now here's one. The sun will arise. Sun will align with that glyph there. So it has everything to do with these spirits in the sky. So later on, we took a trip out, and we noticed that we found out that there's like this stone building. There's a stone building that was built out here in the 1930s. So it took us like almost an hour to get there. It was a heavy walk. And we finally got there, because I wanted to see it. I wanted to end the day with something cool, something, something neat. And I'm not saying the petroglyphs wasn't cool, but this was interesting also. And so this was built in the 1930s, and by the Browns, okay? And I'll post later on my Facebook page more about this stone house and who lived there and everything like that. So we won't go into it because we don't have a lot of time right now. But yeah, I'll post it on my Facebook on who these people were and what they did here. And you see this guy here? That's a mine. So next time I go out there, I'm gonna locate that mine, and we're gonna talk about that mine. We're gonna find it. And we're gonna talk about it on the show. I'm gonna go find it, and I'm gonna find out where it's at. So that's gonna be fun. And when I do, I'll let you guys see it on the I'll post it on the show. So here's what that stone house. Here's what it used to look like. This is a map of all the houses that used to be there. But that was interesting. The Brown Homestead. Now, at one point in time, the house had a concrete roof. So you would think that the concrete roof would survive, at least survive, but it hasn't. I believe that they took it down on purpose. They removed the roof to expose the elements of the sun and the weather, because not only, in my opinion, not only do they not want livestock going in there and pooping up the place, but they don't want homeless people going in there and partying in there, stuff like that. So I believe that they removed the roof, so people wouldn't live in it, and so they just left it ruined like this. They left it in ruins and took the roof off. So that's what I think happened to the roof. And I'll be showing photographs. I have some great photographs of this building. I'll be posting it on my Facebook page. It was really neat. It was really neat. It was getting late, so we had an hour walk up there and an hour walk back. And I tell you what, it wasn't very fun. And then later on, we learned that there's a shortcut. There's a shortcut. So we're gonna take that shortcut next time, and we're gonna find out because we didn't have a lot of time here, because if you notice, the sun is starting to go down. It's almost 5 o'clock, so the sun is going down, and so actually it was probably later than that. It's like almost 5:36 or something. I can't remember, but it was right before sunset, so we knew we didn't have a lot of time. We had an hour walk back, so we didn't spend a lot of time here, but we will be going back and finding that cave, finding that mine, and doing some more exploring, because I really enjoyed this house here. I thought it was really cool. You can still see the beams, see the holes up there for where the wooden beams was. Here's the fireplace and the chimney. There's 2 fireplaces in this unit, in this building. Lots of windows, lots of scenery windows. Thought it was really cool. You can see the holes up there for the beams on the roof. See that? That's where the beams were to hold the roof up. And it's sad. It does really suck that the roof is gone. But, thinking about it, it makes sense on why they removed the roof. They don't want animals going in there and making it their home. They don't want people going in there and making it their home. So, yeah. Here's a great view. This is what they saw in the morning and in the evening. It's pretty amazing. It was great. It was great checking this place out. It was neat on how, you know, they took all the stones, they found all the stones from the landscape, you know, in the area. They brought all these stones, they found all these stones in this area, and they poured concrete, they made concrete, and they made a house out of it. Now this one here, this is really neat. Later I found out that this was like a pool of water for the livestock, for the deer, for the javelina, for the coyotes, and they made this little pool for water for the animals. Isn't that neat? I also found a well, and the well was chained up, I guess you would say. Not chained up, but it was there was barbed wire, not barbed wire, but bars covering the well. I took photographs of it. I'll be posting that on my Facebook page later on tonight. And the well was pretty neat looking. And so is this thing. It talks about, on that little plaque outside the house there, it talks about what this was used for. And it was used for the animals to actually, you know, get a drink of water. So I thought it was pretty cool. So, that was great. That was a great little exploring and checking out the petroglyphs. And so we're going to go into a commercial real quick, and then we're going to talk about that thing that Jody filmed in Colorado. And I tell you what, man, when you see it, it's going to blow your mind, dude. It was really wicked. Something wicked is over Colorado, man. Can't wait to let you see it. Be back in a few.
Have you picked up your Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky? True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix, Volume 1. Learn about the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona. Learn about the petroglyphs carved on the sacred mountain, now known as South Mountain, that holds the path to the Phoenix Lights and the UFOs over Phoenix. Pick up your copy today. Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. True stories, myths, legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Volume 1. Find it on eBay, Barnes & Noble, and any source where books are available at.
Seeing strange things coming and going from this mountain.
Uncovering answers tonight to the mystery on South Mountain. It's on South Mountain, and actually it turns out they're not alone because people have been visiting the mountain for a very long time, leaving strange marks on the rocks. ABC 15 Steve Filmer explains those to us.
Most people that hike in South Mountain have seen a few of the rock art panels, and they perhaps thought that they were graffiti.
I've been seeing strange things coming and going from this mountain.
There's some people that suggest that some of the rock art is associated with alien visitations or spaceships or UFOs.
Jeff Woolwine and Todd Boswick have never met.
Sometimes I might see one around 9 o'clock. Get over here, too.
Yeah.
Both men are fascinated by South Mountain's ancient rock art.
Are they telling us a story?
Is there a connection in your mind between the petroglyphs on this mountain and the things you see in the sky near South Mountain?
Yeah.
It could be. I propose that is.
Shot like a rocket, went and then stopped. And then started to go real slow. Like, whoa, look at that.
That's an airplane, but what's that underneath it?
Wow.
Hovering lights, strange shapes floating in the sky. Jeff videotapes them all on